Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing a breakdown on the XYL ARP9. I'm going to pull this thing apart, show you guys what's inside. First of all, you guys know this is the 7.4 volt battery that comes with it. I've put a Dean's plug on this one. You guys can do that yourself if you like, or whatever other plug you may use. I run Dean's. Put that aside. Got the magazine. These things are sturdy as hell. Yet to have a problem with them. Touch wood. Rightio. Here's the blaster itself. So we're going to start by pulling the top receiver off the bottom, or the upper off the lower. 2 pins. One here. And another here. Bit easier to see on this side. So we should probably pull the buttstock off first. Push this latch down. The second one's a little bit harder to do, and then this just slides out. Rightio, that's that off. So now we're going to split this pin. Well, not split the pin, we're going to push the pin out. One little push, that pin comes out. Put that aside. Now, without pulling that second one off, the top receiver will obviously come off. You just got to be careful because there's a prime button under here. My barrel's going to come out with it. This prime button here, if you put your upper receiver back on sliding this way, it's very easy to catch that and damage it. So keep an eye on that one. Rightio, before we throw this to the side, we'll go through it. So that is your upper receiver. Just there. Pull this barrel out. It's not very long. There's a little spring there which pushes it up against the nozzle on the gearbox, just to try and help you give you a bit better of an air seal. Nothing too special about that one. People have been changing those out for smaller diameters and longer lengths so they can get a bit more FPS and fit a hop up on it. I haven't done that. I don't find a need for it yet. Rightio, the next step to get this gearbox out would be to pull the motor out. So these standard come with an Allen key. I've pulled those out and put in some screws with a Phillips head in the top. So we'll pull these out now. Terminals on the motor. Pull those off. Here's the motor. It's supposed to be a high torque motor, but it doesn't really feel like it. Doubt it is. I guess it's just a generic. Sort of motor. A few weird cuts in that magnet there. Don't know if you can see those. Metal gears, obviously. Rightio. Then pull these out. There's Phillips head screws in the bottom of the pistol grip here. Screws. 4 Phillips. Don't know if you can see those. Definitely in there. Only thing I don't like about this box with those 4 Phillips head screws that go through the pistol grip there is there's no thread, metal thread in the bottom of this box. So you're literally putting your own thread or tapping your own thread into the box there. So there's a chance that if you over tighten these or you do it one too many times, you're going to strip out the gearbox, and the gearbox, I guess, then is pretty much useless unless you can somehow put some sort of thread in there. Rightio, next thing that needs to come off is the actual buffer tube itself. Pressing this little button here, that end cap comes off. Dean's plug again, and in the back here you can see, what you probably can't see on the camera, is the MOSFET. That you'll see a bit better in a second. Allen key down in the buffer tube there. Crack that. Give it a pull. Don't pull too hard, because if you snatch on that harness, there's a good chance you're going to pull something off the MOSFET. Shake out those. There's the MOSFET. It's buffer tube. Here's the washer that holds onto the buffer tube, and the little Allen key bolt that goes in there. Here's the MOSFET. You've got mag terminal wiring, trigger wiring, all coming back up here, and obviously motor wiring as well. Rightio. Next step is we've got to punch this rear pin out. That just slides out. And then from here, need to punch out the little pin in the middle there. So I like to go the same way that the pins come out. So I can see the head goes out that side. So I'm going to push it through this side. And that little pin comes out. Rightio. Slide up and out. Guide that MOSFET through. Some dry gels there. That's your lower receiver. Nothing too special. Mag release. Best thing is, unlike a Gen 9, this thing has actually got a pin through it, so it's not going to fall out. You can leave it there. And this thread in the back of the receiver is nice, big, thick. You can actually push that out. Nice thick little T-nut, I guess you call it. Probably still wouldn't be a good idea to land on it. Rightio. Clean up my mess here a bit. Put those aside. Now, here's the gearbox. 50% ported cylinder. Mag terminals. A lot closer than your standard. This box does have the placing for mag terminals elsewhere, so I'm not too sure what they'd be used for, unless you're going for like maybe an M4 or something similar. Apparently they use a similar box in the AKs. A few holes in there so you can check your gears. These are running bushings rather than bearings. I much prefer bushings. Metal trigger. And I'll show you what I've done to that trigger inside the box as well, just so that I get rid of a bit of the trigger play there. Rightio, let's pull this gearbox apart. So we need a flat blade screwdriver for the spring retainer. Put that in there. Pull this out. There's a spring, plastic retainer. Not sure what size spring that is. I haven't got any measuring tools on me at the moment to be able to measure that. Put that aside. Rightio. Phillips head. The short black screws go in the top of the box. And the longer stainless, or whether they are actually stainless, probably a different story. But these ones go in the bottom of the box. And this one. One thing I hate about this box, not sure if you can see that, but there's a little bit of plastic on that thread. So I've obviously pulled out some plastic from the gearbox, and that's probably never going to go back in that hole the same. Move those out the way. Now there's one odd screw in the box, and it's this bottom one here. Should show you that. This bottom one here. It's one odd one out. It's a dome head rather than a taper. And it's a little bit shorter as well. Rightio, that's the screws out, so we should be able to pop this apart now. Now, because of the mag prime wires, you can't just pull the top of the gearbox off and put it away. You've just got to flip it over and let it be. Now, pull the piston tappet plate out. Return spring looks like maybe a Gen 9 type or standard V2 return spring. Got grease on my finger now. .50% cylinder, piston. Now it's got the first tooth is metal, the rest of them are nylon. So if you were to upgrade the spring, I'd say it'd be a wise idea to upgrade the piston. This looks like just a standard piston, nothing too special. Now I have upgraded the O-ring on this previous to this video to a green O-ring, and a couple other people I know did the same thing, and they found, and I also found, that with the green O-ring it dropped about 20 FPS. So for whatever reason, this black O-ring that's in the gearbox from factory is better than the green O-ring. I haven't tried any others. You may want to do that, but not worth putting a green O-ring in it. 50% cylinder, nothing special about that apart from it's stainless. Tappet plate, standard looking V2 tappet plate, apart from it has the screw holes for the blowback system, or the little plate that goes on the blowback. I've taken that off. I think it's a waste of time, you don't need it. And also the way that I sit my port from my cylinder, I can pull back the priming handle, and I can actually drop some oil in there to lube up the piston. Nozzle, it looks proprietary. I've heard a few people say that it is. That it does look like it. See if it fits the T-piece. fits in there quite nicely and sort of jams in to a point where it's a little bit sticky and hard to pull out rather than just sitting there. So that's the nozzle, the tapper plate, cylinder head, just a single O-ring, black O-ring. This also looks proprietary. I could be wrong. And it's got quite a nice bit of padding there, and it gets your angle of engagement fairly good for an out of the box plaster. So put that back in. By the way, don't put this the wrong way around, because you're only going to have about a 20%, 30% cylinder. Probably won't go as well. Put that to the side. I've got a shim here, which goes, if I can pick it up, goes on that one. There are shims on this. I know one person that's pulled these apart, checked the shimming, they said it was all good. I might check mine after this video just so as I know it's good, especially after a few games. I'll put them over here and make a mess on my table with all this grease. Another one, 2 shims on it, one either side. And a reverse. Here's the last one. These have actually got massive shims on them. They'd have to, this one here would have to be, that would have to be 0.5, maybe a 0.4. This one's a bit smaller, it looks like maybe a 0.3. Still massive on this side, huge. Put that over there. Now probably the only last thing to show you is the trigger mechanism itself. So fairly standard trigger, and it's just got like a little chipboard in here, and grab something to point it out. In here where you can see that little white bit, that white bit is a bit of matchstick that I've cut and placed in there, and what that does, I'll pull this trigger out, what that does is gives a bit more of a spacing between the actual metal part of the trigger and this little white button on the chipboard, that one there. So when I press that, that's the trigger activate, and giving it a spacing, it stops it from having to travel so far to press the button. So rather than pulling the trigger back, say 5 mil or maybe more, and then it just going click, 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 now it goes back about 2 mil and then it will click straight away. So for me, it just feels a bit more responsive. If you if you do change the spacing on there, you also need to change, or what I found anyways, was you need to add a bit to the I guess what they call that, a trigger lock. That's the safety mechanism there. You need to add a bit of spacing to that, otherwise it'll still activate the trigger switch with the blaster set in safety. So if you want that to work, you need to put a spacer or a bit more of a matchstick on here as well. That's pretty much it, guys. There's not a lot else I can show you. You probably see it's made a mess of my wiring here, the motor, where it's been sitting. Put some heat shrink on that or something. But that's pretty well it, guys. Nothing nothing much else to show you. So quick update to the previous statement of the shimming being good. I've literally just finished shimming this prior to editing the video, and I found that my shimming was out a bit. I put a 0.2 here, 0.2 here, and a 0.3 here. I then had to drop this one from the top side, this side here, to the bottom side because it was rubbing on this one. So it's all shimmed now. It sounds really good. About to put it back together and try it out. If you have any questions, throw them in the comments below. I'll try my best to answer them. I'm not a fantastic tech when it comes to gel blasters. I do all my own work just for something fun to do. I try my best. It doesn't always work, but I guess you learn as you go. So guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you didn't, let me know and why. Hopefully I've got the lighting in this video a lot better. Certainly looks like it from what I can see so far. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.